business district was vandalized and set ablaze late in the afternoon, about 5 p.m., and the fire continued up to about 10 p.m. when it was eventually extinguished. That is approximately for a period of about 5 hours when the fire was raging. Uganda House is a 6-floor building which had been undergoing renovation and was slated to be handed over to the Commission, the High Commission, on the 28th of June. At the time of the fire, only the ground floor was occupied. On the 25th of June, only the ground floor was occupied. The other floors including the 3rd floor, had been vacated previously to allow for renovations. So the renovations had been going on. By the time the fire took place, only the 1st floor, the ground floor, was occupied. Following this incident of the 25th of June, staff of the Uganda High Commission in Nairobi went to the building to make an assessment where a fire incident preliminary report and a required budget for restoration of the building were prepared. And I've included this in the document I have just shared with you. It was observed that despite the extensive damage to the property, luckily there were no fatalities or serious injuries to persons within that building. Subsequent to this incident, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Uganda issued a statement in respect of this incident, and the government of Kenya issued a note verbal to the government of Uganda expressing regret about the unfortunate burning of the Uganda House in Nairobi. The investigations by the local authorities on the actual cause of the fire that gutted the building are still ongoing. Although I had alluded from the very beginning that it could have been associated with the activities of the rioters, but the actual cause is going to be established by the investigation going on. It is important to note that the Uganda House, upon completion of the renovations, is projected to collect the non-tax revenue annually of about 4 billion shillings at full occupancy. The multiplier effect of restoring the building in terms of generating non-tax revenue for the country is therefore enormous. It's on this account that I pray to you, Madam Chair, and members of this committee to consider providing a supplementary budget allocation, which we have so far indicated of around 6 billion shillings for the restoration of the Uganda House in Kenya, provide adequate space for our own staff at the mission, and to generate, as I've indicated, the non-tax revenue expected to be about 4 billion shillings annually. So, Madam Chair, that briefly is the situation and the circumstances surrounding the Uganda House. I beg to move.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. additional information that any member of your team would wish to add, then we'll proceed to the next item of reactions to your presentation. Thank you. Honorable Minister, I draw your attention to the provision of Article 22, subnumber 2 of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, 1961, which states that the receiving state, that is Kenya in this case, is under a special duty to take all appropriate steps to protect the premises of the mission against any intrusion or damage and to prevent any disturbance of peace of the mission or impairment of its dignity. I have been wondering, were the mission premises not under the special protection of Kenya government at the time the incident occurred? If not, why wasn't it the case? Because the law requires that.
And Chair.
Then, we are also interested in knowing the status of the renovation project for Uganda House in Nairobi at the time it was damaged by fire. The exact status, what was the total project cost, and how much of the funds had been released and paid to the contractor. Then also we've been wondering, was the building insured at the time it was damaged? Maybe, Honorable Minister, you could respond to the first question and those ones, then the Shadow Minister comes in after that.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable. Questions. I'll respond to the very first one, and the second one I'll request my Permanent Secretary to respond to. That is the status at the time of the fire, what was the status of the renovation and all of that, as well as whether the building was insured. But on the question of protection under Article 20 of the Vienna Convention, Right Honourable Chair, that article refers to the actual premises of the Chancery. Uganda House is a commercial building, so they could not provide that protection as required by Article 20 of the Vienna Convention. But it is good practice, good neighborliness, all the same to look after. But it is not incumbent upon them by virtue of that article, because it's not actually the Chancery, but it's a commercial building owned by the Uganda High Commission.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Chair. If I may, just to add that our Chancery is in Riverside, and the commercial building is on Kenyatta Avenue. Madam Chair, allow me to first of all pay our gratitude to the committee, because indeed the committee did support the ministry to get funds to the tune of 22 billion or thereabout to renovate Uganda House. Uganda House had been condemned by the city authorities in Nairobi because it had been dilapidated, the lifts were not working, and the structure was indeed in a very bad condition, and Parliament appropriated funds for us to renovate that commercial building. At the time of the fire on the 25th of June, this structure had been completed to around 95%. And indeed, the contractor was due to hand over the structure on the 28th of June. Unfortunately, that handover has not happened because of the unfortunate incident. And as we have mentioned, the structure was in the hands of the contractors, and indeed the contractors had taken out insurance for the building. Their insurers have since visited the structure, but they've not made any commitment as to whether they will be making any compensations. But they have visited the structure to assess, because it was a requirement that whoever took the contract would take out indeed an insurance, and we have insurance which had not expired with the contractors. But Madam Chair, some of the details are in the document that the minister has laid on table, and we are still engaging. As the investigations are going on, we're also engaging with the contractor to hear what their insurers have to say in respect to the compensation for the fire that gutted the building.
MPS, do you think it would be prudent for you as a team now to present a request of 0.6 billion to this committee?
No.
When
Chair,
we
objection.
Madam Chair.
Chair.
Before
Madam
we
Chair.
have, when there are avenues that you could explore on the insurance first, because I see the minister now coming with the prayers to the committee.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, Chair,
On that
thank you.
still, on the response?
Yes. Much as we have great anger against the minister and his non-public conduct. But we are cautious of your ruling. We shall wait for his answer and statement in plenary as regards the Dubai Casino, because it is also overriding all other factors and all other issues of concern. But for Kenya, Chair, this statement by the minister is very shallow, if not hurried. It does not give us a detailed insight of what was the status of the building, how it moved from A up to Z with all the annexures. And that's why you are now laboring to interrogate if there is insurance, if there is a, because we would be reading this from the contract itself. Similarly, for a minister who has accessed a contract with the contractors or the rehabilitation contract, it is too early and even impossible for the minister now to come and allude to the fact that the staff of the embassy, who are not technical staff, went to the building after catching fire, made the assessment, and even made the budgets there and then. What procedure is that in law? The embassy cannot have that technical expertise to quickly make such an assessment and come to a conclusion that now we need 6 billion. Chair, I find this information by the minister misleading, and he must not have visited Kenya the way I see him. Because the embassy staff could not have this technical expertise to hurriedly make the right assessment to a level of now coming up with a budget. 2, initiation of any supplementary is not a concern of the committee. Under the Public Finance Management Act, it's the accounting officer to initiate any request for a supplementary. And it's at that level that the ministry can now forward it, after forwarding it to Parliament, that can now come to the committee to request any input of ours. But thinking of a supplementary of 6 billion now, before 1, the fire is investigated to conclusion. 2, the minister did not, in his statement, didn't mention anything to do with insurance. Can I assume connivance? He wants the money and also get insurance. Now, we lose as a country. 3, Madam Chair, when it comes to work done, a building that had been budgeted for, and from the disclosure as given here, they had only computed 95%. We must interrogate even if it was actually 95%. Because in construction, at every stage of building, there's that supervision that would assess performance and completion stage. The building might have been burnt at 20%, when most of our money is still held either by the contractor or by the embassy. These are questions for us to interrogate. But now, if it was at 95%, where was the minister assessing the 6 billion? This is a hurried conclusion. I think this is a statement we cannot accept as it is. It is very shallow and diversionary. Because one, the investigation about the cause of the fire is not complete. And the state of Kenya has not committed or attributed the cause of the fire to even the Kenyans or protesters. And Chair, I want also to draw your attention that there was an earlier statement which I think the minister has since clarified. But again, the full minister has reiterated the same, that because of the protesters being diverted into the destruction. Chair, this minister of ours has no capacity to assess affairs of Kenya. Let's diplomatically wait for Kenya to officially communicate who participated and who caused the fire. That's why we can comfortably entertain a statement that it is protesters. Jejje Odong, as a minister, has no concern with the Kenyan protesters. His concern is to do with the building, and must wait for a report from Kenyan police or authorities. And otherwise, we are already in a situation where Uganda is being accused of meddling into affairs of Kenya. Recently, before Parliament, Madam Chair, FDC members were complaining that their supporters were kidnapped in Kenya.
Can we confine our discussions within the...
As I conclude, Madam Chair, I'm trying to digest the statement. The statement doesn't mention and disclose the facts we need. This minister, Jejje Odong, let's chase him away. He comes back when he's well prepared to answer about Kenya. Because this statement of his, there's no annexure, there's no disclosure, the investigations are not complete. He's talking about a supplementary budget. He's just taking us for a ride. Let's chase him away. He comes back when he's prepared to present well on Kenya.
Thank you, Shadow Minister. There is a pattern earlier on mentioned it. On the prayer for 6 billion, when there is an insurance which is on, can we know, Honorable Minister, is it really proper for you to come with the prayers when you have not even concluded on your follow-up on the insurance? Because as a committee, we are interested in knowing. Can we have a copy of the policy? Is it possible for us as a committee to have that policy for the insurance?
Madam Chair, can I add, Madam Chair?
Madam Chair.
Honorable Deputy Chair,
just a second.
Then Honorable Noah.
Because, Honorable Chair, I think we may be in danger on going to and fro on these issues. I therefore suggest that the minister and his team follow the questions that were communicated to them before this meeting, so that we have a synchrony on how we move. Otherwise, we're going to be going to and fro. And I believe you have a copy with it? No? Oh, okay. Oh, no? Oh, okay. Procedure?
There is a question from Honorable
Madam
Noah.
Chair,
Noted, Honorable Chair, Deputy Chair.
Position of the government of the Republic of Kenya as far as what transpired or what happened to the embassy of the Republic of Uganda. Apart from the regret message from government of the Republic of Kenya, what is their position as far as what transpired to our embassy? That's one. Two, Madam Chair, when they are constructing a structure either in Uganda, either in Kenya, it is assessed level per level, and their completion certificates level per level. Can we look at those completion certificates? Either it was at foundation level, we look at that. When it reached ground floor, first ground floor, second floor, third floor, we go as we look at that. Finishing level, all of that, want to look at that. Secondly, Madam Chair, as this committee, we need also to look at the contract agreement. It is important as this committee to look at it and we see what was embedded in the contract agreement. The structure was to take how much money? So far, how much money was spent? We want also to know that. Madam Chair, as I conclude, we need also to do an oversight as this committee, to go to the embassy and we look at it and we assess ourselves. We might not be engineers, but we've been looking at these buildings for a number of years. We are not beginning to do oversight. Some of us have been here for the last 8 years, others have been here for the last 10 years, so we know what we are doing. So, Madam Chair, that's my submission. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable No. Project cost, which was not responded to, the honorable members again reiterated, and he highlighted one very critical thing: certificate at completion levels. The committee would also wish to have copies of these documents, because at every completion level there are certificates issued. We need copies of this before we undertake the physical assessment or inspection of the building. So I hope you've taken note of the questions that were asked. Yes, Honorable Chris, then Jenny Mugira.
Thank you very much. And the PS and the ambassador, the entire staff, handle this committee with seriousness. However, I don't know, and that's when I rose on a procedure issue. I don't know whether this time the hint of the lagging in the presentation is coming from us or them. Honorable Chair, totally, when you look at the statement the minister is presenting today, this statement, anyone can get it on the social media. It's not in depth. This is not the Afande Minister Jejje Odong I know. He has always been spot on, in depth. If we find ourselves at a level where we are intriguing, it feels as if they came to tickle us and find out what do we know. So what we know is what they present, and this is quite embarrassing for our mother ministry. I came in for this meeting 6:30. I was in the room expecting to get an in-depth analysis of what really transpired. And I want to quote Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, one of the staffs in Kenya made a remark that none of the Uganda diplomatic or consular staff was in the building at the time of the fire. And then he went ahead and said, Ugandan authorities say, we would like to categorically state that our relationship with the government of Kenya and the people of Kenya remains as solid as ever before. We are speaking of a building with an emblem and a wording of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Chair. This was the only building amongst foreign commercial buildings that was attacked. We have a defense attaché in the mission. What was the defense attaché doing? Why didn't they?
As you're on the floor, I really want to refer back to what it is: a commercial building. It is not a chancery, and neither was it a residence for the ambassador. It was a commercial building without a label, and I don't believe that there's a Ugandan flag hanging on the same building. So,
thank you very much, Deputy Chair. That building has Uganda House, and every Kenyan the house. The Riots who went there, what were they looking for from a Uganda House? Was our defense attaché well informed? Because his sole duty there is to correlate information concerning the security of the chancellery. Now, if we cannot protect what is our own, how safe is our chancellery? True. These are questions I wanted to pose to the minister. But then, we and Kenyans are almost like brothers and sisters. What instigated the rioters to come specifically to Uganda House? Honorable Chair, we saw, and it's in public domain, before the incident, a Uganda truck, a fire brigade truck, was in Kenya. Before the incident, I asked myself, if we had a resource as such, why didn't our staff invoke their powers to use that same truck to covert or fight the fire before the building goes down to rampage? And that is my only prayer. I want, if possible, through your guidance, today's meeting, unless if they have other documents they are going to present to us, I would request that maybe the team goes back, gets to us the information that we are currently asking. And when they have the information, then we can debate again. Thank you so much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable. Given chance for General Mujira. You can come after him, please. That's a good neighbor, yeah, sure.
Okay, so thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and thank you, the Honorable Minister, for your presentation. From the report of the Honorable Minister indicates that indeed investigations are ongoing, and I think it's logical that we wait for the detailed report from the Kenya government. But to have a better understanding and informed opinion on exactly what happened, I think there are also some information that we would need from the minister. For example, in his report, he indicates that the Uganda High Commission staff made a preliminary fire incident report. I don't know whether that report is available, and if it is, it would be available to this committee for study. The number two, I'm wondering if there is any government agency, Uganda government agency, that could be carrying out parallel investigation in this, so that we don't have to just depend on the government of Kenya report. Then number three, of course, we would also be interested in the insurance policy, so that we find out if what happened is indeed covered under that policy. So those are areas, I think, which and information which I think the minister should avail us for us to make an informed decision on the matter. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, General, for your concerns that you've raised to the ministry. I hope you've taken note.
To rotate around this matter. When the minister alludes to investigation as ongoing, now he ceases to have the right of assuring us that he can, with certainty, confirm cause of fire, and even without a technical report, he cannot, with certainty, confirm to us the extent of damage. By alluding to the embassy staff visiting the consulate, who told you that a visa consular can make an assessment and come and ask for 6 billion. You also just carry the same figure as a minister, you come and lay it before a Foreign Affairs Committee. Let's be technical in processing these figures. But most importantly, Madam Chair, when it comes to who now takes charge of the rehabilitation, there are 3 layers. Is it Kenya? Is it the insurance? And until those 2 are answered, we cannot discuss anything to do with the supplementary. I think the minister was just using this guise and introduce a figure, purportedly that was presented before committee. And Chair, I wanted us to dismiss some of these submissions by the minister. And it is in our interest to interrogate if Jejje Odong has visited that building of Kenya. He might not even have visited it himself. He's just reporting a rumor. We must interrogate the person who visited it. Who visited it. And lastly, Madam Chair, when it comes to the communication, I have a concern with the communication by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. We as Ugandans want to maintain cordial relations with the people of Kenya. And it is my prayer that the minister withdraws this assertion he has put on report that Kenyans, because it is on record, him saying that that Kenya abandoned the principle of peaceful demonstration and took the path of destruction of properties, wherein the newly refurbished Uganda House, a commercial building located at Kenyatta Avenue, was vandalized. You are the same person telling us investigations are ongoing to establish the cause of the vandalization and the fire.
Let me ask
you are the same persons accusing Kenyan protesters. Where do you get such a mandate? This must be withdrawn, Madam Chair.
On that particular matter,
this must be withdrawn.
Minister, can we know with us the preliminary findings in the source of your information, because you're based on something, I believe, for you to capture that statement for us on the rioters.
Thank you.
Maybe you can clarify if it's related to the documents that you've submitted. Maybe technical team also look through that document.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to thank colleague members of the committee for the points of inquiry you have raised. I would also like to note that my colleague and my counterpart on the other side, Honorable Kuruningi, is very combative. The attitude here is let's inquire and find out. We do not like pointing fingers or what, but what is important, if I may begin from what the chair has just inquired and what Honorable Kunyinge also did inquire. What is the basis of me coming to say it's likely to be this? Among the documents I laid on table is a preliminary fire report dated 27th June, and it's not issued by the staff of the Uganda High Commission. It is issued by Wanjohi Mutonyi Consult Limited, who were involved.
No procedure.
in this.
A private
Minister,
company
conclude.
cannot talk for the
Excuse
Republic
me,
of
Honourable
Kenya.
Member. Honourable
This
Member.
is the Foreign Affairs Minister. He cannot
Can we
take us
have
for
one
a ride.
meeting that
As I said, I was specifically answering to saying it was the staff, and I was saying no, they based on a report by a competent professional body. Indeed, you have also raised other questions, and I would like to request the permanent secretary to quickly respond to these questions on the rate of completion, the availability of a certificate of completion.
Honourable Minister, before you go to the certificate of completions at different stages, can you conclude well on that matter? You referred to a document, if you can, the riots as the source of the cause of destruction.
That's what I was asking the PS to read that report
Can the
and give you the
PS,
preliminary
can the
findings.
PS do that, particularly on that area? We need to conclude that matter. Clarification over the same, Honourable Chris?
The PS also comes into to clarify on the statement the minister has made. I would also love the PS to clarify on the fact that they have told this committee, and it's on record, that Uganda House is totally a commercial building. Whereas to our own information and find out, second floor of Uganda House was handling visa and consular services, second floor. And entirely, it might not be true if you prove to us the Chancellor moved to Riverside only for rehabilitation processes, with the hope that they will come back to Uganda House. So as you come in, Sir PS, clarify to us and let it be on record whether Uganda House is totally a commercial house, as you instigated before. Thank you.
Honorable Chair and honorable members. Honorable Chair, as the Minister has stated, our Chancery is in Riverside. That is where it has been. It is true that before the renovations started, a section of consular services was in Uganda House. But that does not make Uganda House a diplomatic entity, because it's not a chancery. A chancery is designated as a chancery and it enjoys immunity. If Uganda House defaulted on power or water, it would be sued. Unlike or any other thing, or it's not invaluable, as the lawyers would say. So, Madam Chair, it is true, before the renovations, yes, we had a consular section that sat at Uganda House. but the Chancery has always been and will continue to be at Riverside.
Then after the renovation?
After, indeed, Madam Chair, during this course of the renovations, a consular section was also renovated at the Chancery in Riverside, and the consular section. But having said that, we shall hear, I want to put a disclaimer from...
By the time of the fire, was the consular services on the second floor still at
no,
Uganda House?
No, Madam Chair. It was not.
Are you sure about that, PS?
Yes, I can go on record that it was not. Because as the minister stated, only the ground floor, which had shops, was operational in the entire building. The rest was under renovation. Madam Chair, we shall provide the certificates to demonstrate how far the construction had gone and indeed the associated payments. Madam Chair, let me state this. When the invitation was given...
Were issued already? How many certificates had
think,
already been issued and the stages of completion?
I think in excess of 5 or 7 certificates. But Madam Chair, we shall provide the information. That information we had about the ministry, we can provide it even today after this meeting. Madam Chair, allow me to say that the mission, our High Commission in Nairobi, Uganda High Commission in Nairobi, contracted MS Ambitious Construction Limited to construct or to renovate the Chancery. They also contracted Wanjohi Mutoi Consult Limited as the supervision consultant for this property. And indeed, Government of Uganda disbursed, I beg your pardon, I had mentioned the figure of 22, but it was 27 billion for the refurbishment of Uganda House. Under the works and consultancy, at the time of the fire, was at around 26.3 billion. That is where the stage at which we were. They had spent 26.3 billion. So, Madam Chair, when the fire happened, indeed, our staff, the security staff attached to Nairobi, to our Nairobi mission, collaborated with Kenya Police to get the fire brigade to come and put out the fire. But Chair, I want us to reflect on the events of that particular day because they were in the public domain. On that very day, there was a procession or protest in the Parliament of Kenya. It was on television, covered live. What happened on that particular day was seen by everybody who watched the news at the time. There were incidences at the City Hall in Nairobi. And then there was an incident that we took interest in, which was the Uganda House. Chances are high there are other many incidences that took place on that particular day, but they have not been of interest to us as Uganda. But indeed, Uganda House caught a fire, and indeed there are clips, Madam Chair, which we can play, if given an opportunity, to show what exactly transpired. And indeed, there were many people that were gathered around Uganda House. So the conclusion that it was a result of the protests of the day, which protests were in broad daylight, is not very far from the truth, in our opinion. So when the fire...
just on that point, and also the stars, because from their submission, the report they are citing is from a private company known to them. The PS is talking about watching news and maybe social media. This is the Parliament. We are processing for Parliament of Uganda. And we know Kenya, as a sovereign country, has investigative bodies. The moment you cite that investigations are ongoing, you seize the right of assumption. Because it is in your statement, as you concluded, that the ministry remains engaged, that investigations are going within your statement. Why do you then outsource hearsay and come here in Parliament, maintaining the same statement without verification that it was a result of protesters? Yes, we agree there was a fire, regrettable, but let's not assume and based on hearsay. Moreover, from the ministry, Chair, I beg to submit that the minister withdraws that.
I take note
and we
of
give
what-
time. We give him time until he gets the report from Kenyan authorities.
I take note of what the honorable member is emphasizing. And one appears, when you look at the statement of the minister here, he clearly stated, referring to the riot. And he said, as you may recall, you wish to recall that on 25th June, protesters in Nairobi, Kenya abandoned the principle of peaceful demonstrations and took the path of destruction of properties, wherein the newly refurbished Uganda House, a commercial building located along Kenyatta Avenue in Nairobi Central Business District, was vandalized. You'll agree with me indeed that this is a strong statement. And my hope was really into your document. I was waiting to hear where that statement comes. I don't know whether it's still ahead, PS, as you continue to read, but from whatever you read so far, I have failed to pick this come clearly as a basis or a source that the document of the minister is referring to. So I think unless you're going to point out another caption of that document as a basis for us to tolerate this statement, you may have to really consider withdrawing this statement for our own good, especially when investigation is still ongoing. Unless there's a specific area in your document that really points out to the source of the fire or the destruction coming from the riot. So we need to take a position on this particular reference made, Honorable Minister. I hope you do take note.
Chair, I beg that the minister.
I've always believed in this gentleman dogmatically, and he has always worked. However, today, Honorable Chair, I want the PS to categorically state to this House that the consular was not in second floor by the time of fire guards, because we have a report as per this effect. This committee went to Kenya and they found that the building was at 60% completion, and at that time consular services were being handled in second floor. Honorable Chair, we have a report to this effect. Why should the PS sit here gently and tell us that the consular services has not been in second floor, yet members of this committee who went to Nairobi found second floor being occupied by staffs of the mission? Bwana PS, what do you want us to believe?
Madam Chair, like Nairobi a week before, I don't know when the committee went, a week before the fire, or a week thereabout, because actually the president traveled for a state visit in Nairobi. I was part of the team. I visited Uganda House. There was no consular services on the second floor. And I don't want to say it was not there at the time of the committee visited, but by the time I visited the place and by the time the fire caught, the building caught a fire, there was no consular services on the second floor.
Okay, noted. Honorable, the document that you're basing on.
Chair, the ministry issued a statement, I think around the 26th or 27th, thereabout. We issued that statement after having discussions, one with the High Commission, our High Commission, the people on the ground, and after engaging colleagues in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Kenya. And the sentiments in the discussions that we had were that the building caught a fire as a result of the protests on the 25th. That is the import of what we said. That statement was issued. We made the same statement when the fire caught. And indeed, after our statement, by way of validation of what we had said, what we had stated.
PS, I think, do you have a copy of that statement with you? I think it's important that you share it with the committee.
Include this, what he has raised. The copy of the document,
Because
the statement issued.
Because Chair, a statement from the PS is not a source of authority to validate a fire. And two, this statement may now, we will have a challenge when the official report comes, which is probably will be the basis of compensation, if any, even if it were to be insurance. Now, as a committee of parliament, we don't want to engage in what was what came out of a verbal or a cordial conversation. When it is on record that they are stating investigations are ongoing, it was issued by the minister himself, not the PS, this statement, the one we are interrogating.
Honorable,
not
can
the press
we be
briefing
patient a bit and look through that statement? Then we take our decision.
I think, honorable member, I think what the PS is trying to clarify is in relation to the actual issue you raised on that paragraph.
Exactly.
That is the first thing. And of course, he's also trying to say that the content of this paragraph is embedded within the statement that was released by the ministry. And indeed, that is, I think it is in order, therefore, that, that the statement be availed to members so that we fully understand the context of this paragraph. So I think let's give them time, let them avail us with the statement, and we move.
Can we take our decision? If we find it not substantive enough, we ask them to withdraw this statement. Because I do agree, colleagues, you all agree with me that this is a very strong statement. That statement.
Chair, as I was saying, and as the minister mentioned, on the 16th of July, indeed, His Excellency, President William Ruto, wrote to His Excellency, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, expressing his regret following the fire incident that occurred at Uganda House on the 25th of June. Madam Chair and honorable members, we hold a view that if this fire was out of negligence from we at Uganda House, chances are high this regret would not be sent to Jejje the President. But it's on record. The President of Kenya sending his regrets to his colleague in Kampala to say we regret this incident that occurred.
Thank you. Is it possible for us to have the content of that regret document?
Madam Chair, I'll write to the PPS because it's addressed to HE, but at least we have the note verbal here. It's on record and it's authentic.
Honorable colleagues, I think this is also a document that we should interest ourselves in. If it can be availed, we need to look through the content of the regret letter, because it would definitely highlight, among other things, if at all this is related to that.
We may not get certainty, something may not be written in certainty that the cause of fire was X, Y, and Z. But the mere fact that the head of state writes to say that they regret, they have made their point.
And that's why we are saying, let's wait for investigation. Investigation. What do you lose by saying we wait for investigation? Let Kenya commit themselves by their reports.
We'll continue.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, now, upon the fire and the team in Nairobi, working with the fire brigade to put out the fire, 2 days later, indeed, Wanjohi, as I mentioned earlier, who were the supervising consultants, were requested by the Air Commission in Nairobi to determine the extent of the damage. And it's from that extent of the damage that the preliminary figure of 6 billion comes out. And Madam Chair, as government of Uganda, we have a choice. We have a choice to wait for the investigations to be completed, which may be completed in a year or two, or to pick up the pieces and refurbish or renovate the structure and get tenants in that particular building. So the choice is for Uganda to make. Now, secondly, Madam Chair, as I mentioned earlier.
Because I don't want us, PS, I'm sorry to interrupt, I don't want us to get lost in that very important point, because inventory of 6 billion has been, or is being requested by the ministry. Vis-a-vis the potential of the insurance compensating the damage of the building. Now, just assuming that the supplementary that has been requested has been disbursed, so to say, or approved before the insurance, and also assuming that actually the insurance has agreed to compensate, how is that going to work out?
Honorable members. One, it was incumbent and our duty to determine the extent of the damage. And from the report of the consultants, the extent of the damage is worth around 6 billion. So that fact we now have. And then on the second issue, the contractor, Ambitious Construction, had insured the Uganda House project at the start of the renovation. And the good news is they had not handed over on the 28th. So the structure had not yet been handed over. And indeed, the insurance company has visited Uganda House as part of the inquiry into the fire, because the contractor has approached them to say we had an incident and we had taken out the insurance. Madam Chair and honorable members, allow us some time to exhaust that process, and then we shall come back and see if indeed the insurance the contractor had taken out covers the incident of the 25th of June.
Okay, so I think on that note, members, we may not disobey the request or the prayers of 6 billion. We give time for the technical team, the PS and his team, to conclude with the insurance and maybe give us a comprehensive feedback. So we will not have any discussion on the proposal for the 6 billion for now. However, PS, or still on that, I was wondering about the tenants who were in the building. Were their properties also destroyed? If at all their properties were destroyed, what is the responsibility? Whose responsibility is it to compensate them for the damages caused?
Chair, indeed, the ground floor was all occupied with shops. There were tenants in the shops. These shops were looted, vandalized, and their property got burnt. And these were indeed our tenants. Having said that, Madam Chair, our agreements with them were really for tenancy, and government of Uganda did not have any liability to that extent. And we hold a view that indeed, if they individually have insurance, that will take care of that. But their hope is that the structure is renovated and they pick up the pieces and go back to business. But for now, it's uncertain.
Okay, you can proceed with other questions that you had them earlier.
Allow me, the minister had laid this document on table. It has the detail. We apologize that we could not make copies for all the members, but this document, the Honorable Komakech was concerned that we are not given enough detail. But Madam Chair, I want to say that this particular document has quite some detail, only that we received it yesterday and we could not run copies. Because when the request, the directive to appear before the committee came to us, indeed we wrote to the missions to provide information. And this information came late, and that's why we're only laying it on table
You have a
for the
contract
committee.
document there? Contract document?
The contract document, we didn't have the contract document here, but we can get it, Madam Chair.
We need
can
a
have it.
contract document. Certificate of completion at completion levels. Is it there, attached?
No, it's not attached. Madam Chair, we restricted ourselves to what you had requested, but we can avail those documents this afternoon after
Okay.
this meeting.
Okay, we need a complete certificate at the completion levels. We need a contract document. We need also the policy, the
Insurance
policy. Then we need a copy of that letter of regret and press release, that
With the press
statement
release.
that went to the press.
This is a signed one. This is what I signed.
Honorable colleagues, the minister has gone out he's on the phone. So he'll be coming back in. He asked for permission.
Or on part of government of Uganda, how certain can you be now that it is now time to rehabilitate, or the situation in Kenya is still ongoing? No, these are matters, realities. Yes, the building was had a fire or caught a fire. Chair, I also pray that you caution the minister. He may disappear any time. He's normally not easy. However, when it comes to the status quo in Kenya, yes, there was a fire. The cause is still being investigated. By the time you lay a statement talking about rehabilitation, repair, or insurance, has the situation normalized? Is it now safe even to talk about
To invest again?
utilizing our insurance cover? Is it time for us to utilize, if a report comes out today, is it ripe that we can now revisit the mechanisms of rehabilitating it? Or we are going to build it again in 1 week, it is burnt the other week? Our relations safe for now. So what is within your knowledge as a ministry?
Yes, can you respond to that?
Minister of Foreign Affairs, Shadow, raises a very important point on the timing of the renovations. And I think it is, of course, it would be unfair to sit here and discuss another sovereign on whether it is appropriate to, but the point he raises is very legitimate, more that we should not throw good money in an environment that is not yet certain. But I think since there are investigations, we shall continue to work with the authorities in Nairobi and then perhaps do two things. One, to reinforce our security, because Madam Chair, you are asking what security measures are there. But just so the committee knows, we had a security firm that we had hired, a private one, Benforce Security Services, which we now think can be complemented with the Kenya Police, and that request has been made. So should we decide that we are going to do renovations or the insurance cover comes through, I think we shall have to make sure that there is sufficient security at the facility. And the good news is, if we ask, and already Jejje, the President, President Ruto, has sent a regret to His Excellency the President. The Right Honorable Mudavadi has written to his colleague, our Minister. So we think we shall be able to get the necessary security to secure the building. Should we seek renovation, Madam Chair and Honorable Members?
Okay. Were there surveillance camera on the building?
Madam Chair, we had surveillance cameras on the ground floor, but I want to mention that in the building, the ground floor first floor, second floor, and third were fatally affected, to the extent that the new lifts that we had installed, the system got burnt of the new lifts, and that needs to be revisited. And also where our CCTVs are based on the first floor was affected by the fire, and indeed much of the electricals in the building.
Okay. Then also, PS, among other things, I think we're interested in knowing the tenancy agreements.
Tenancy agreements, yeah.
Tenancy agreements.
Madam Chair, we shall share the tenancy agreements.
Madam Chair,
So can we go back? Have we got the copy of the press release, Honorable Minister? I think you were.
But I've requested for one that is signed, because I know there is one that is signed in my office.
Okay.
What they sent was not
Are you
signed.
committing to provide?
Yeah, we shall provide that as well.
Okay.
Shall provide the signed copy.
Madam, on the last page, the minister alluded to the fact that the building would provide adequate space for the staff of the mission. This is what I want to highlight.
On the last page?
Yeah, on the last page of his, the second paragraph of the last page. After requesting for 6 billion, he's saying the building would provide adequate space for staff at the mission. We need clarity now, because we want our Uganda mission and our diplomatic representation to be functional at all time. Does this presuppose that part of our diplomatic support services cannot be housed, and are there any emergency measures?
But are you talking about page 2?
I'm about page 3.
I pray
Page
that
three.
this honorable committee
Page 3,
provides
where-
supplementary of 6 billion for restoration of Uganda House in Nairobi, Kenya, to provide adequate office space for
Yeah.
staff at the mission and
Yeah.
generate non-tax revenue.
So this is what I want to interrogate, because when you mention staff, it triggers our inquiry into operations and functionality of our diplomatic representation and presence. If this was the target equally, we want to understand whether now the workspace for our diplomatic staff has been threatened, and in the event that now this building caught fire, what measures have you initiated? Are you going to rent somewhere else? Are you going to squeeze the same office? We need to understand, because this is a revealing statement.
Honorable PS, can you respond to that?
Madam Chair, missions or our embassies have the diplomatic staff from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, have attaches from sister entities, the Uganda Police Force, Defense, and Office of the President, also to be very specific. Now, for some of these individuals who also become diplomats once they go to the missions, they are more effective, not in Riverside, in the case of Nairobi, but more effective in the city center, because of the nature of the work they are accredited to do. So that is what we were referring to.
Okay. Where are they currently?
Madam
Yes.
Chair, just to
Riverside.
amplify what the PS has said, let's come nearer home here. For example, embassy here. But all of you know, as you drive around Kampala, that the office of the DA of the Egyptian embassy is not at the embassy, it is down here in Kololo. So this is the point we are trying to make, that there are staff that may not necessarily reside within the chancery. They will have to be outside, but still be part
Because of
of
the
it.
nature of
Madam Chair, the question is, now that the building cost, where are they? And who is paying for them where they are? Are they renting privately in town, or you are housing them at the embassy?
Yes. on
Where
that?
are they?
Madam Chair, at Riverside.
Okay. Okay, that's noted. Honorable Ministry team has also responded to the questions. I still want to reiterate that we need these documents, that we mention them by close of business tomorrow. On MPS, if you work around that and have those documents delivered to us. Contract document, the preliminary file, and then the regret letter of the president, among other documents. Please avail us with these documents before the close of business tomorrow. Members, there being no any other.
By consulate is whole document as noted on the order paper. Now, the minister will know too.
I know, honorable member.
And that this statement is required because if he doesn't give
get
it,
very excited.
If he doesn't give this statement,
When the room is full.
Yeah, no,
but
Chair.
I really pray that we stick to what we agreed
No,
upon.
Chair. Chair, because your ruling was based that the committee will process it after the statement. Now, the minister, if the minister escapes giving the statement, we shall be delayed to another time when he gives the statement. That's why it is emphatic that we emphasize the minister to make his statement to the floor as required, so that the committee can process it further based on the guidance as may be within plenary.
Thank you, Shadow Minister. Hope you've taken note, Honorable Minister. Among other documents that the security firm, we need a contract document that we've signed, that was signed with very much for coming in person, and I would like to thank the whole team to respond to our invitation, and we thank you for your submissions to us that will be called again. This committee will do its own investigation and also have that moment to then do on-spot checks, interact with the embassy, and then we'll be able to invite you again before we conclude processing our findings. So please be ready for that. However, the documents that we've asked for be availed by close of business tomorrow to support the committee in this investigation. I would like to, otherwise with this, I can now request you take leave.